The first in what will probably become an endless plethora of Star Wars spin-offs, Rogue One tells the story of how the Rebels came by the plans for the original Death Star. Now, in some ways, Gareth Edwards and co. have it easy. After all, everything is set up for an epic caper, right? With an ending that we're pretty much all familiar with. And so it is that this ragtag bunch of rebels, an outlaw, a spy, a turncoat pilot, 2 temple guards, and a sassy droid go off in search of the weakness that can overcome the Empire's devastating new weapon. And it's got a great cast, a proven director, and an audience prepped for swells of goodwill. So it should be easy, right? It should be an easy peasy ride. Oh dear. The trouble begins almost immediately. Rogue One can't decide if it wants to be a Star Wars film or not. And the bait and switch that kicks things off is the first example of this. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the blue font comes up, but there's no bombastic fanfare that breaks through it, no scrolling text to follow. "Ooh, look at me," says Rogue One. "Look how different I am." This does not last long. Rogue One spends a good chunk of its first hour on a dusty planet because isn't that how all Star Wars movies go? The cinematography, the way the film is shot is a direct homage to A New Hope itself. I mean, Edwards has said as much in previous interviews. The music keeps threatening to break into the love theme from the prequels before abandoning all pretense once we get to Yavin 4 and bringing back the classics that we all know and love so well. And by the end, that decision to not have the fanfare at the start seems like an anomalous gimmick. Why did they even do it? Aesthetically, this film is banging on the doors of George Lucas's house going, please let us be part of the original OG crew. And to be clear, I don't really mind that. I mean, it's the inconsistency that irked me. The stylistic throwbacks are actually done really, really well. So well, in fact, that you wonder why they didn't just stick with that the whole way through. And yet again, despite trying to make each frame look like it was shot in 1977, the retro wipes and the transitions are completely absent. And the somber tone of the film is reflected in really washed out gloomy palettes until the film's final third, and that actually ushers some life into proceedings. There are cameos everywhere in this. Ponda Baba and Dr. Cornelius Evazan, the thugs who start on Luke in the Mos Eisley Cantina in the first film, they turn up on the streets of Jeddah, the aforementioned desert planet, literally so Felicity Jones-Jyn Erso can bump into them. The Clone Wars Saw Gerrera is repurposed for no reason except to pad the film's first half, but even he's criminally wasted. Forrest Whitaker is criminally wasted in this role. He could have been a really interesting character. Instead, I'm not even sure why he's in the film, except just to sort of delay us getting to the awesome final battle. Digital wizardry brings Peter Cushing back from the dead, and it's actually amazing. He's actually amazing, but this actually only serves to underline how completely risible Ben Mendelsohn's director Krennic actually is as a chief villain. Oh, and then Darth Vader turns up. Just the Sith-tastic cherry on top of these cameo cakes. And it turns out that David Prowse was completely underrated, because Vader's screen presence here is terrible. It's absolutely awful. He's doing all the right things, but he looks a little weedier than before, he's not as imposing. His presence there on the screen above us is just not as impactful as it was. It's not as decisive almost. And although he has a kind of awesome little bit right at the end of the film, I don't know, I just wasn't really feeling it. Even James Earl Jones, who admittedly is older now, sounds a little off. By the final third, Rogue One just completely abandons all efforts to try and stand on its own. Instead, the film starts blending in elements from A New Hope into the mix, reaching back in time to pluck pilots and footage from the original Death Star battle to give things some sort of continuity. And actually, this makes perfect sense, it works incredibly well, and the appearances of Mon Mothma and Bail Organa and General Dodonna, they all fit within the cinematic world of Star Wars, quite why they replaced Akbar with something close to a Mon Calamari, but not quite a Mon Calamari. That's another inconsistent. I don't even know. It makes no sense. Because these cameos, these lend credence to the continuity. These work well. It just makes the inconsistency of what came before that much more irritating. There are other things that make no sense as well, like given Rogue One is a film that admirably has absolutely no qualms with killing off members of its key ensemble, It makes no sense that we spend half the film following pointless objectives and gathering each member of the crew one by one without ever really discovering who they are. A far better move would have been to start the film with the team assembled already, giving us more opportunities to learn about them and their characters through interactions with one another. There's a lot of talk about dreams and the cause in this film, but we really don't see it. I mean, the atrocities in Rogue One by the Empire are by the numbers villainy, they're completely bereft of emotional weight, and they completely lack the impact of something like Alderaan's destruction in A New Hope, or even Shmi Skywalker's treatment at the hands of the Tusken Raiders. I mean, Hayden Christensen is pretty terrible. He's like the worst thing in those prequels. But I kind of believed it when he went on that mad rampage against the Sand People. Like, you feel his anger. Let's take Rogue One's prologue as an example. Our first introduction to this new chapter in the Star Wars universe is a dubious mess of accents as young Jyn Erso sees her mother murdered on the orders of the least impressive Imperial officer ever. Krennic is so bad. He's such a weedy bureaucrat, frequently appearing as though his cloak might actually swallow him whole. His threats seem shrill. His arguments with other Imperial officers seem petty. He just seems out of his league. But all the prologue does is tell us that Krennic is supposed to be bad, that Mads Mikkelsen, another criminally wasted actor in this, is a human MacGuffin, and that we're supposed to feel bad for Jyn already. But we don't know her. We don't care at this point. It doesn't mean anything to us, not really. And you compare this with A New Hope, a place where we get to spend time seeing the universe through Luke's eyes. I mean, we go on his everyday journey, we go shopping for droids, we feel his restlessness and his dissatisfaction with life in the Outer Rim. And it works because the universe is so new to us as viewers that we form a natural parallel, right? His innocence and ignorance is reflected in us and eventually perfectly counterbalanced by Obi-Wan as his mentor, the world-weary Captain Solo, and the well-travelled Princess Leia. And when his personal tragedy finally comes, when his uncle and aunt are brutally killed at the hands of the Empire, that vision, the charred bodies in front of the homestead, it's shocking and brutal and it's burned into our brains. That is how you build a protagonist. We are essentially seeing the world through Luke's eyes and going on that journey with him. Now, Jyn is barely the main protagonist in this story. I mean, the script seems really scared to let her take over much of anything, which is a real shame because Felicity Jones is fantastic. She's a brilliant dramatic actress, but she's rarely allowed to let loose. And when she does get more than like a couple of lines, they fall completely flat because the film hasn't really given us much reason to care about her or her team of misfits, who are barely a team. I mean, she's not alone. Like, for an ensemble movie, the characters rarely get anything to say or do of any real note. The script is mediocre to say the least. I mean, it never gets quite as dreadful as some of Hayden Christensen's lines in Attack of the Clones, but all the speeches are flat, all the dialogue seems hollow and uninspired, and even Alan Tudyk's sassy, repurposed Imperial droid has some lines that bomb horribly despite his best efforts, seem a little bit forced. I mean, Donnie Yen is cool as the blind pseudo-Jedi monk, but that's because Donnie Yen taking people out in acrobatic fashion is always going to be cool. Crucially, there are no air-punching moments that come as a result of this script or this direction. There's nothing organic that comes out of this film to make the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. Even the soundtrack's terrible. They try to do something new towards the start, and it just... They don't stand by it. There's no conviction. They fall back onto the old familiar themes, and yeah, like pretty much everything in this film. They start at the beginning going, hey, let's do something slightly different in the Star Wars universe, and then very, very, very quickly just go, nah. And it's telling because it's only when the film really kind of accepts that as its fate in the final third, only at the very end, as the determination of Jyn and Diego Luna's Cassian drives them to best these dire odds with the battle swirling all about them. That's the only point where Rogue One just finally bursts into life. It's only then that we really feel the urgency behind this mission, and then cruelly it's snuffed out by Grand Moff Tarkin's laser-spitting fake moon. And that's a kind of wonderful moment. Like, the way the film kind of blends into the start of A New Hope at the end is really, really, really nicely done. And yeah, the final half hour of this film is great. They should have just made the entire film that. Oh, it's frustrating. Actually, I mentioned Tarkin there. I just want to say, I find it quite revealing as well that of all of the individuals in this film, why is it the one that's played by a dead man that has the most life and flair? The trouble is that Rogue One is a war tale that seems disinterested in its own war for the most part. It's a dark tale that never really bothers to look into the heart of its own darkness, and it's a Star Wars film mostly bereft of magic and verve. If you're looking for lazy fan service, yeah, sure, this will probably delight you. If all you need is a checklist of nods and winks back to previous nooks and crannies in the Star Wars universe, then yeah, Rogue One provides. But it's strange. Guardians of the Galaxy showed the world how to do an ensemble space opera caper with a new IP. In fact, well, Star Wars did it. You've got to have a cracking script though, and a director with vision. And sadly, Rogue One has neither. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, I need to watch it again. I need to go see it again. But I do remember walking out of the cinema feeling very, very disappointed. The third act is basically the film that I wanted to see the whole time. I don't know why they take so long to get there. I don't know why the script is so dead and flat. They have a great cast. They have a director who's done good work. And actually, to be fair, like Edwards' action sequences in Godzilla were amazing, and the action sequences in this are fantastic as well. But there's just no emotional depth to this. There's nothing for these actors to really sink their teeth into. And it shows. There's no heart here. And that's a problem. Now, I imagine a lot of you are going to disagree with me on this. And to be honest, that couldn't make me happier. I want you to tell me why. Head into the comments, let me know what you thought of the film. And yeah, let's get some discussion going. Because like, I don't think Rogue One is a bad film per se. I just don't think it's very good. So yes, those are my thoughts. What about yours? Stick in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, stick some thumbs on it, please. If you haven't subscribed already to the channel, please do so. And yeah, we'll have some Game of the Year stuff coming very, very, very soon. I'm very excited for that. So yeah, stick around, check it out, stay safe, see you soon. Bye.